investment, I feel like you're getting a lot of it. And I really try to get Brian Thomas Jr. as much as I can at the back end here. If Brian Thomas Jr. is gone, I go with Nico. The biggest concern is the health. He has missed a decent amount of games over the span of his career, every season, where Drake London, a little bit younger, has been healthier and, is just maybe the safer pick, but I'm going to go with Nico, who was on pace to be the wide receiver one if he didn't have that hamstring injury. So let's talk a little bit about Nico Collins. I'll take my next pick, and then we can kind of get into your pick. But when you think about Nico Collins, Matt, I mean, is there a world, in your opinion, that he can finish as the wide receiver one?
It's really unlikely to me. I do think he can finish top 12, but one overall, I just don't see it. There's too many big names that I believe in more. And I think we also have to remember, as good as Nico is, this offense completely changed. I mean, we added not only Higgins at the top of the second round, but they also added Jalen Noel. They added Christian Kirk. So they surrounded CJ Stroud with more weapons to kind of give him the opportunity to spread the ball around and keep the offense progressing forward. But in my eyes, I just don't see a world where Nico Collins is necessarily going to be the wide receiver one overall. But like I said, I do think he's a top asset. If we're talking dynasty, not necessarily in this draft, but I do think he's a really, really high asset. You should go get there as well. But redraft at the 111, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Nico's, when you look at his first few games in the season, he had 4 straight games of over 100 air yards. We're talking air yards over 100. He had 17, 27, 12, and 33 in the first 4 games, and then 15 against Buffalo, where I don't even think he played. Yeah, he didn't even play, I don't think, the entire game, right? He had a 13.2% snap share. He had 2 targets, a touchdown for 78 yards. He has big playability. I get your take on, they've added weapons to that room. And so there is some concern with that. But to me, I look at Nico. I think he has that ability. He's a guy that's going to pretty much can almost do anything on the field, right? He can play a big slot role. He can play outside. He's athletic. I mean, this is a guy that ran a 4.5, which at his size at 6'4" is very solid. And I mean, he had 12 games last year and he had 1,000 yards in 12 games. He was on pace for 1,500 if he played a full season. 17.6 points per game, which was 8th in the NFL last year. That's coming off of a 2023 season where he was 7th in points per game with 17.4 in 2023. I think there's a world. I mean, the thing about Nico is he doesn't need a lot of volume to put up points. And I think that's the value. He has like breakaway speed and big playability. And I think that's what makes him appetizing. I don't think we're talking about a guy who had 68 catches and 1,000 yards on that, 14.8 yards per catch, 15 in 2023 at 16.2 yards per reception on 100 and I'm sorry, on 80 receptions. I mean, those are pretty strong yards per reception numbers, and it just goes to show like he's a guy that can provide yards after catch as well. And he's a good deep ball receiver as well. So I like Nico there. I kind of go back and forth. I'd rather BTJ. I think I do lean Nico over Drake London, but look, I get it. I just think when we talk about is there, I mean, let me ask you, I mean, is there a guy outside of Nico, right, that's on the board with like, you can include London since he went after I took Nico, but is there a guy that you think has wide receiver one potential that was on the board if you include London?
Yeah, London's the immediate pick for me. I mean, he was wide receiver 5 last year, so I think we're kind of taking for granted how well he played already. I mean, yes, we're getting a quarterback change, but we kind of already saw it a little bit with Michael Penix. And like I said, I just think London's talent is already proven. I mean, he was wide receiver 5 last year, like I said, 100 targets, or excuse me, 100 receptions on 158 targets with almost 1,300 yards and 9 touchdowns. And I see a world where that gets better. Another name that I think we could talk about is someone who was just picked a second ago, and that's AJ Brown. I'm not the
Mm.
biggest fan of AJ Brown, but he is talented enough to do it. I think it might be a little bit surprising, but he's got a history of playing well, multiple years in the top 10, one top 5, one top 6, I believe. So he's a big time playmaker, man. And if he finds the right way to get hot with Jalen Hurts, say maybe they ban the tush push, not that matters much, but it might just influence it just enough. And when we're talking about an extra touchdown or two, that can kind of swing some fantasy points in your favor.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, it's close, and I think the one thing I'll give Drake London, and I think we are splitting hairs, right? I mean, I'll probably go back
Hmm.
and forth on both guys, a lot this offseason. The one thing I would say about London that's in his favor is, look, they both play in a dome, but London's defense, Atlanta's defense is going to be much worse. Much, much worse. So there is a very strong possibility. And honestly, the more that we talk through it, I think you're probably right. I think London has a higher chance. But you also have to hope that Michael Penix does quote unquote hit, right? And he does. We've only seen a small sample size. So that's also the possible worry. But again, positive game script. The thing that I worry about the Texans the most is, they ran, I think, like bottom third in the league for plays last season, right, on offense. So with added weapons plus, a very slow like tempo offense, there is concern there. So I can definitely get on board with that. It's so early that I'm not necessarily locked in on anybody right now. Other than I don't think I'm going to move off of Bijan. I think Bijan's probably locked in for me at the one.
Yeah, I don't think you're necessarily crazy for having Bijan there. I do think, like you said before, some of these players were splitting hairs at the top of the draft. It's just so much talent. But here I'm at the 211, and I think last year I did this several